Hello, everyone. It's Charlton. Please subscribe to my channel, tap the notification bell, and like this video. That helps me to keep making videos, and I appreciate it majorly. So, it's just come out right now that the U.S. has ordered non-essential government employees, government staff to leave Iraq, and ordered them to leave Iraq immediately. It's a pretty, this has just kind of been ramping up, and ever since the first incident, well, actually, it wasn't the first. I mean, some of these things are tied together, and it never really occurred to me, like Mike Pompeo's Secretary of State's visit, unannounced surprise visit to Iraq. That was, I think, the first thing, and it never really occurred to me until I started kind of reading up on this right now that seems to be part of this. But the attacks on the Saudi tankers, they're not attacks, but they were sabotaged. They were, we don't know how those, holes were put in them. I think they were put by explosives, maybe put by divers there, as well as two other vessels that I think were from the UAE, but they weren't tankers. They were just commercial ships. Not real sure. And then there was the drone attacks, two of them on pipelines in Saudi Arabia that I believe, I think it's fairly confirmed, but I don't know, that they were Houthi rebels, which are backed by Iran. But the timing, well, and also Trump ordered to the region the aircraft carrier and the strike group, as well as B-52 bombers, for threats that supposedly that they have intelligence on potential threats on U.S. forces in Iraq, Syria, even though we barely even have anybody in Syria, and at sea. So right after our aircraft carrier, I don't even know if the aircraft carrier group had arrived yet. I believe it had. You had the sabotage on the Saudi oil tankers. They were on their way to Saudi oil filling stations, if that's what they're called, to pick up, one of them at least was to pick up oil to be transported to the United States. The timing of it seems so suspicious. I mean, it's like they don't even bother to make it, look, and I'm talking about, the Iranians basically said that they think it's very possible that, it's just staged to sort of for a pretense to war. There's several things, but now they're ordering non-essential forces to leave Iraq. This is the State Department. That's the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, as well as the U.S. Consulate in Erbil. It just seems like we're kind of moving in that direction. There's also the report that the Secretary of Defense was presented a contingency plan on sending 120,000 troops to the region as a deterrent for any would-be attacks that were, from Iran, as well as the fact that they may start enriching uranium again, which bringing 120,000 troops into the region, I don't mean, that means land troops, because the Iranians would start enriching in uranium again it seems pretty outrageous to me. All of it seems outrageous, and honestly, this is how the election's coming up, man. And the Republicans, I'm a Republican, but the defense industry, they don't really care what party. They control both parties. But the Republicans have always, and that every single president, and that includes Reagan, who I thought is a hero figure to me, uses the defense industry to finance their campaigns, flat out. And so if you have a conflict in the region, or even something that appears to be a potential conflict, so that we are going to be allocating resources and money towards that, that's a big boost to your campaign. You basically have one of the most powerful influences in the world, the defense industry, which is so powerful in Washington D.C. behind your campaign. It's just big money. So let me continue, and wonder who's on the board of directors of Boeing. There you go, right there. And I know there's some recent announcement. I know Nikki Haley joined. I don't know if it's on there yet. So Arthur Collins, David Calhoun, Ronald Williams, Lawrence Kellner, Mike Zafarowski, Edward Liddy, Edmund Giambastiani, Susan Schwab, Lynn Good, Robert Bradway, Caroline Kennedy, Nikki Haley. There she is. I thought what's his name was joining the board as well, like Mattis, too. Boeing is a huge culprit in this, and they always in government spending. I mean, it's outrageous, and it's not just in matters strictly related to defense, the Export-Import Bank, but the defense interest. The defense secretary is a former Boeing executive. That is a humongous problem. It is so terrible. And, for all of you out there, I'm not going to rant on Trump, but, that Trump's not a swamp creature, man. It's so ridiculous, dude. The former executive, who was an executive at Boeing for 30 years, is running the defense department. But there's no conflict there. It's a joke. So he has no military experience whatsoever. And, how do you spell Mattis? So maybe he didn't. I thought for sure he would join the board somewhere. Maybe I was confusing my. He's not on the board. Nikki Haley is. Nikki Haley, who was obviously Trump's ambassador to the United Nations, who basically, very vocal about Israel and stuff like that, and basically Israel can do no wrong whatsoever and do anything, and yet they would be the victims constantly. It's so absurd. But so she and everyone thinks she's just this wonderful, nice person. She's this high, she's got high integrity and all this other stuff, and she can't be, influenced by Trump or whoever. But she leaves the United Nations, ambassador to the United Nations to become a board member at Boeing and other things. Believe me, she'll be a lobbyist for sure. She's going to make a fortune, but it's just hilarious. So, and you're telling me being, staunchly, just complete 100%. Zero balance to it, 100% pro-Israel at the United Nations. That didn't help her getting it that board seat at Boeing. It's terrible. So, like I said, that's pretty much the whole story, man. I don't know if my guess is Trump would be a little bit more like Reagan. Reagan basically just kind of used the threat of war and had massive defense spending. The defense industry loved him. They literally have his picture. It would have his picture on the hallways in the boardrooms of every defense company in the world. But at least wouldn't actually, put American lives at risk, to do it. But it's still wrong, man. It's just the defense industry controlling what we do and getting all of our money, The Iraq War is so terrible, man. There's so many wars where we're just dropping bombs just to pad the profits of defense companies. It's terrible, where people are just being annihilated. Many of them, not just Americans. Most of the times it's the foreigner. The million people that died in Iraq. Even though Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney is Dick Cheney's wife. I used to love Dick Cheney. I used to think he was the coolest dude ever, Darth Vader, because he's so smart. But Liz Cheney moralizing it just makes me want to laugh. All right. So that's pretty much the story there. Over at the Daily Mail, America today has ordered all of its non-emergency government employees to leave Iraq immediately. The U.S. State Department ordered the pullout of employees from both the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad and its consulate in Erbil. The embassy said in a statement, normal visa services at both posts will be temporarily suspended. It said, recommending those affected depart as soon as possible. It was unclear how many staff would leave. On Tuesday, the U.S. military reaffirmed concerns about possible imminent threats from Iran to its troops in Iraq. I don't even know how many troops we still have there. I think maybe like 10,000. Although a British and our allies are questioning whether there really is a serious threat. Although a senior British commander cast doubt on that, and Tehran has called it psychological warfare. It comes against the backdrop of tinderbox relations between Tehran and America as tensions escalate further with the sabotage of 4 tankers off the coast of UAE on Sunday. Yesterday, Iran-backed Houthi rebels claimed to have carried out drone attacks on key Saudi Arabian oil installations, with the kingdom calling it a terrorist act. Amid an escalating war of words, U.S. President Donald Trump said Tehran would suffer greatly if it enraged Washington, while Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, said last night that enriching uranium to weapons grade levels would not be a difficult task for the country. And it continues. Fears of an all-out conflict jumped this week amid rumors that President Trump was about to deploy 100,000 troops to the region, though he later slapped these down. In the same speech last night, Khamenei tempered his veiled threat by insisting that no one is seeking war. You know, Iran's gonna have nuclear weapons. I mean, it's just reality. And they're a massive country with massive resources, and it's not the same as Iraq. I can assure you. I mean, it just isn't. I mean, a conflict with Iran would be a massive conflict, massive. 80 million people, and I mean, it's just obviously they're not freely elected, and all that. But why? We or anybody are able to tell, when we have nuclear weapons, many other countries have nuclear weapons. Israel has nuclear weapons. It's only 8 million people. Why we're able to tell who and who can't, I know I sound like, but that's always before Trump, I've always been like, why is that? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And that they say like, why would we let other people tell us whether or not we can or cannot do that? It's like saying you can't defend yourself, So, and that's the situation there. All right, thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe to my channel. Give me a like down below. I'll see you in the next video. Later, man.